Les, why don't you start?
Sorry, hold on. Making more work for Nick. Things he's got to edit out later.
Actually, it's less work if you are quiet during this part. The little song you do takes way longer than silence to edit out, including this part right here. Fuck, now I'm doing it.
Episode 392 of the TV Dudes, recorded July 6, 2022. Sex, Death, and Money. This week, we're talking about Sex, Death, and Money. There's the intrepid podcasters of Only Murders in the Building, back for Season 2 on Hulu. There's the sinister Delos Corporation and its attempts to control everything in Season 4 of Westworld on HBO Max. There's the rise of Sheila's aerobics empire and all the debauchery surrounding that on Season 2 of Physical on Apple+. There's clueless, but well-meaning rich heiress Maya Rudolph on Loot, also on Apple+. And then there are those final 2 episodes of Stranger Things Season 4 on Netflix. But before we get to all that, I'm Randy.
I'm Les.
I'm Melissa.
And I'm Nick. And are you enjoying those beats, Randy?
Like your beats?
Huh?
It's a callback. Because we're right back where we... Forget it.
It's a callback. Yeah, never mind.
And we're the TV Dudes. Melissa, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
We're down one of the Midwestern contingent. We brought one in from the Canadian contingent, so that should even things out.
Yep. It's like double Wisconsin.
Another Wisconsinite traded off for a Canadian. That's pretty close.
So this was a week of a lot of stuff to watch. So let's jump over and jump to the TV diaries.
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
So for my TV diaries this week, I watched Motherland Fort Salem, which has come back with its final season. I would love to know the story of whether they thought they had one more season, or like if it feels like at some point, like a year or two ago, they started having to compress a bit of story, and like they jumped through some things real quick. But I like where they're at now, and it kind of ended up fine that they had to hand wave away like a villain is now an ally, and I feel like they missed a season dealing with that somewhere. But overall, that show's super fun. That's the Witch Army show. They're getting more into the coolest thing about that show has always been the larger world that they've set up just kind of so casually. Like, it's a really cool fantasy novel series you would totally read. And this season, they've actually gone into the Session, which is this huge, like, Canada to Mexico swath of land by the Mississippi that they gave back to native tribes for some kind of assistance at some point with the U.S. government. And so you've just got this huge area of, they talk about it like it's this lost country, or you just realize like it's just entirely self-governed. And so like you've been on an army base the whole show, and so everybody there has always talked about it like, we don't know what happens in the Session, and like it's just people living out in the middle of nowhere. But they're finally out there, and it's really cool. Been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Started watching Happy Endings again. That show is just so nicely done. Watched some You're the Worst with Fanny. She and I have been rewatching that. That show is so good, but so dark. Holy shit. Speaking of good and dark, Fanny's also been rewatching 6 Feet Under, so we've been watching that. Tried to stay up on The Old Man, which I'm really enjoying. Fastest, slow-paced spy show. It's still slow-paced, but it's really good. Watched the 3rd episode of Pistol, and it drops off and changes in quality so drastically. I thought, oh, this is the episode Danny Boyle suddenly didn't direct in this show. And nope, it is the same writer and director. It's still Danny Boyle, and whoever the writer is. I don't know if it's the most punk thing ever to shit the bed on the 3rd episode of a show, but that was one of the most disjointed and just unpleasant episodes of television I've watched in a while. Lots of spitting on people, which it's a Sex Pistol show. That was going to happen, but it's just fucking weird. And the editing's weird, like all of it. I deeply hated the 3rd episode. The next episode is called Pretty Vacant, with cunt spelled with a U. And at the end of episode 3, I was like, I no longer trust this show to deliver on that title of an episode. I'm going to give that a minute before I wade into episode 4.
Well, now I'm gonna wait until you finish all of it and tell me whether
I
should
may not
watch it or
finish
not.
Pistol. Honestly, I hated that 3rd episode a lot.
Oh wow, yeah.
I think I still had like 15 minutes left in The Bear, or 10 minutes left in the last episode of The Bear, and so I went back and finished watching or rewatched the last episode of that. That show's so good.
That show was great.
Watched a few movies. I watched The Man from Toronto, which is Woody Harrelson and Kevin Hart.
How was that?
It's cute.
Okay, all right.
Kevin Hart's shtick of being like mistaken identity dragged into action scenes is a pretty good shtick for him. He gets mistaken identitied for Woody Harrelson's like super killer. He's the torturer that you bring in to get information out of people. Like he's the super scary. He's the dude that put, a car battery on Mel Gibson, basically. And that's funny in its own right every time he's on screen. Woody Harrelson's great. But also Kevin Hart getting mistaken as that dude is pretty good. Yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. Also watched The Adam Project, which was same caliber, like really cute.
You finally did.
Kind of forgettable. Yeah, I finally watched The Adam Project. Really enjoyed that. Yeah.
I liked it okay, but I found it the thing is it's the same people who made the same people who made Free Guy, which I adored. Adam Project was like a lesser version of it.
Yeah. This feels more of like a Disney Channel movie level
for
to
sure.
Free Guys thing. But I like I'm a sucker for dad stories at this point in my life, so it was good. Nick and I watched Zombie Strippers.
Fuck yeah, we did.
Which was fantastic. It's I would say it's a half hour too long, but it's more that they waste a half hour because they've got actually a lot of really goofy good ideas, and when they fully commit to it, it's bananas. Yeah, that was one of the weirdest movies we've watched, and then quite a lot of money and love poured into that. Then the worst thing I watched. I watched The Rocker with Emma Stone and Rainn Wilson and just a ton of people. Fucking Bradley Cooper's in that. It's really a weird cast. I'd seen it before, but it's fun. Rainn Wilson plays a drummer for a hair metal band that gets kicked out right like the night before they get big, and hates it for 20 years, and then like joins his nephew's band and is a fucking wild man. Yeah, that was fun. And then the worst thing I watched this week, House of Gucci, which I had heard was really, really bad, and it's really, really long as well. So like for the first hour of it, I was watching it going, I don't really understand why the reviews were so bad. Like everybody's pretty much given it their all. Like Jared Leto is as deep into a role insane as he ever has been and is unrecognizable, but Lady Gaga's fantastic in it. And then the storytelling just comes apart. Like there are character motivation change, like characters start doing stuff where you're like, you have not shown anything in this entire movie that would lead me to believe that you would do X, Y, or Z. And who is this other character that's just appeared? Why are we 2 hours into a movie, but you've forgotten to give me backstory on anyone? Like, it's so long and there's so much untold that just gets hand waved away with like, oh, and this is so-and-so, I used to know them. I'm like, well, what the fuck? You have had Godfather amounts of time here. By the end of it, I am genuinely baffled that Ridley Scott made that movie. It feels like no one gave a shit by the end. And also, I don't know if it was shot on location. I have not read. I'm sure that there's a lot of stories about this movie being made, but it looks like some of the worst matte paintings ever. If that's on set, their cameras are weird. I mean, like if that's on location somewhere, like that's a terrible shot, because there's a couple of times where like Gaga's on a balcony and it looks like if you're trying to do that shtick of it's a movie and like it's gonna cutesy move the background away, but the buildings just don't move, but like that can't be a real fucking city. Anyway, House of Gucci was quite long and terrible. But if you want to see Jared Leto look like a low rent Joker, you could watch this as well as Suicide Squad.
I don't want to see that. So I'm good. I'm good on House of
He
Gucci.
actually makes a better Joker in House of Gucci.
It's funny because there's a rumor that they might do a in the sequel to the Joker, like the Joaquin Phoenix one, that
Mhm.
Lady Gaga may play Harley Quinn.
I mean, they're talking about
Because it's going to be a
it's
musical.
gonna be a musical, yeah. I mean, that's not.
I don't know how I feel about that.
That means that somewhere eventually on YouTube there will exist like a Dark Frasier reboot kind of supercut where someone can take footage from House of Gucci and put it together as a Joker Harley origin trailer. Because he is in, at one point he's in like a purple corduroy coat with like a brown shirt and yellow tie type of clothes, and he's as bald as like William H. Macy in the Theranos show. I mean, like, it's this crazy bald cap, and it looks like if you told somebody that, like, you cast someone as Penguin, you dress them up as Penguin, and then on their way to set they raided like the Keaton Batman Joker costume, like they got Jack Nicholson's Joker costumes. Like that's kind of what he looks like through the whole movie. Only it's just people. Like, he's just supposed to be a rich person, and he's not a supervillain this is not Batman 68.
I cannot bring myself to watch that movie because the Italian accents, and I'm saying Italian.
Oh, they're all the fuck over the place.
In quotes.
We have not even discussed Adam Driver's accent.
I'm sorry, Adam Driver tried to be Italian?
It comes off as
I gotta hear this.
Vampire. It's pretty Bela Lugosi.
I want to suck your blood.
Yeah.
I feel like Gaga might have actually gotten a dialect coach, but it's still all over the place.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I watched a couple of episodes of season 9 of Seinfeld. I'm making my way through that. I watched the finale, the last 3 episodes of The Good Place, because I was getting over COVID and I needed to watch The Good Place. And then I finally made time for Our Flag Means Death. I watched starting in episode 4 all the way to episode 10. And people are right. Like, that show is not the show. The first 3 episodes are not the show at all. I don't know what they were doing. But that said, having now seen all the way to the end of it, I don't love it as much as everybody else does. But I did really like it, and I'm looking forward to it.
You do agree it gets better, though?
It gets so much better. It's like not even the same show. Basically, Taika Waititi comes in and takes over the show. And Taika Waititi and Rhys Darby together, that is the whole show. Like, I don't need anything else. There's other stuff I like. There's some runners that I like with some of the other characters. But really, they needed Taika Waititi to be in that from the very beginning. They waited too long to bring him in, and it changes everything.
Sure.
I caught up on Stranger Things season 1. Megan is watching that, and so she's never seen any of it. So she was watching it, and I caught up with her about season 1, episode 5. So I got to watch up through the last half of that season, and it's interesting to compare season 4 and season 1, and the difference in scale and the difference in those kids looking like kids and not adults. And it was a fascinating thing to watch, having seen as much as I've seen of it, to go back and see season 1, which I had not rewatched, and to get to watch some cool moments like Eleven catching Mike off the cliff, or flipping the van with her telekinetic powers. That kind of stuff was always fun to watch. I watched one more episode of Superman and Lois as I try to catch back up with that now that it's finished, or season 2 is finished. Megan dragged me into watching The Sandlot, which I had never seen, and
what?
It's fine, I guess.
You're killing me here, Smalls.
It's one of those things that I think if you have a nostalgic attachment to it, it's great. If you've never seen it and you see it the first time at age 52, it just can't be the same. It's fine.
Broken glass in your soul, Randy.
It's okay.
That movie will be good forever.
It's like the first time I watched Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
I watched it like as a 30-something, and I was like, it's okay.
Megan also made me watch Hocus Pocus last year, and I had much the same reaction of like, yeah, this is cute. I guess I see why you like it. And yeah, that's not the reaction she was looking for. I watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness twice by accident. I watched it on Sunday. I was like, I'll rewatch it. It's on Disney Plus. I'll rewatch it. I liked it less than I liked it in the theater, to be honest. It's losing a little bit of shine. And then her kids
I didn't put it on my TV diaries, but I watched half of it.
And then her kids wanted to watch it, so I watched it again. And the thing is, there's stuff I really like about that movie, And I feel like it's a way better than the other Doctor Strange movie for me. But I definitely feel like you can tell that it's a mess. It's got that Iron Man 2 production problem all over it. And I can see it's like, this is a solid Sam Raimi movie that could have been a great movie. And it's not quite where I want it to be. But that said, I still like it in a lot of the MCU stuff. So watched The Boys episode 7, which has some big developments. Very much looking forward to the finale of that. Watched Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode 9, which I know y'all are not all caught up, so I won't say, but holy shit, there was some big stuff in episode 9 that I was not expecting. Watched the Orville New Horizons, the latest episode of that, which goes back to their sort of the trans issue that they've been doing about the Mocklin girl who was turned into a boy, and revisits it, and unapologetic about fuck off transphobes, which I really appreciate. It is not subtle in any way, but I really appreciated that particular timing of that. Just like their previous week in their Donald Trump episode and their abortion episode, it's like they somehow had their finger on the pulse of all the horrible shit, and they're flipping the bird to anyone who might have been watching this because they think Star Trek's too woke, and be like, no, we're way more woke over here, bro.
It's a hard storyline for my boy Brodus.
Bortus.
He's my Brodus.
Bortus comes off okay. Bortus's husband is a dickwad, and I just want him to die. He's not
invited to the barbecue.
No, he is definitely not invited to the barbecue. And that's my TV diaries for the week. Nick, what do you got?
I spent most of my time just basically catching up on the homework, since I spent most of my weekend up further north than even Wisconsin will allow. But I did end up watching Umbrella Academy season 1 and most of season 2, just to see how it really holds up. Like, the storytelling really and like the narrative stuff is all very consistent. The powers and plot stuff is very inconsistent. Like I don't think they can decide what Klaus's powers are at all. Like, he can talk to the dead. No, he can summon the dead. No, he can't die. He's immortal. No, he can summon Ben even though it's a different timeline. No, wait, he can't summon Ben because it's a different timeline. Like, I don't get what's going the fuck on at all. But yeah, 5 looks exactly the same in season 1, episode 1 as he does the last episode of season 3. It's fucking weird.
Yeah, that actor's got something going on. As I watch Zombie Strippers with Les, of course, which has a great NRA joke in it. It's got a pretty good ping pong and pool ball trick at the end of it, which every strip club does, but this one is extra special in a way that had me and Les laughing for a good 5 minutes solid. It's like a scream fight. Oh God, there's a lot of philosophy quotes. It's really a weird movie.
It was really weird, all the philosophy, like I guess they were going for they're strippers, they shouldn't be reading jokes. But
God, they hit that joke a bunch, because every time one of the strippers is faced with mortal death and she espouses some just incredible soliloquy about,
Did you tell him Harcourt was in it?
Oh yeah. Also, one of the aforementioned strippers is Harcourt from Peacemaker.
Okay.
Yep.
Almost unrecognizable.
And we had the full on go to a strip club and see somebody moment, like mid dance, where Nick went, "Is that Harcourt?"
Hey, wait a minute.
It's like, no. Oh wow.
Les, do we know that? Do we know that girl? We know that stripper?
That's like, do we know her? Man, we do. Yes.
It's just as awkward in a fictional setting as it is in an actual strip club.
It really was. Yeah.
And that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a bunch of other stuff for Stranger Than Fanfiction that I will now not be able to tell you about, since I'm gonna have to use. I watched some other weird stuff, but I gotta use it for Stranger Than Fanfiction, so I'm not putting it in the TV diaries.
I understand. Melissa, I don't know if you have a TV diaries for us or not. I know there's probably a lot of the homework in there.
I have a lot on top of the homework too that I've been watching.
Oh, let's hear it.
Some of it I can't discuss because it's screeners to prep for some interviews I'm doing, but I'll just say A League of Their Own is Chef's Kiss.
Ooh.
I can't
like
wait
that
for
movie, too.
everyone to see it. It is the TV series is excellent. But other than that, I was looking for kind of a fun, escapist summer show to watch, and I've been trying to recapture the magic of a PBS show I watched a few years back called The Durrells in Corfu. That's like about this British family that moves to Greece before World War II. Widow and her children, and it was just this charming, wonderful, sweet show in a gorgeous setting. So I started watching Hotel Portofino, which again, it's post World War II. English family opens a hotel in Italy. It doesn't have the same heart or anything like the Durrells did, but it's the scenery is just gorgeous. So I'm mostly watching it to like visit Italy virtually. And hoping
Sure.
it picks up like storyline wise. Other than that, I'm still making my way through Brothers and Sisters for the first time. It's a difficult, fluffy yet difficult one to watch because there's some storylines that are so frustrating. Watching Chicago Fire, I'm finally on season 8. And that's just one of those, I feel like watching something that I know all the characters and just need something kind of, fire isn't exactly a fluffy topic, but the order, the procedural aspect, the order, I like that. It comforts me. And this season of Drag Race All-Stars, which is all winners, has been killing it. It is so good. And it's going to be hard to pick a winner because everyone is so good and they haven't been eliminating people week to week, which is a really neat twist for the show. And these are all like the people, drag artists that are at the top of their game. And of course, For All Mankind, gosh, I love this show. It is so brilliant. This season has not eased up on any of it at all. It's as tense and as exciting as it always has been. And that's pretty much, I also watched Doctor Strange. Did not enjoy it. Then again, I never liked the first one. I'd rather watch Thor: The Dark World 20 times in a row
Wow.
than ever watch a Doctor Strange again.
Wow, that is harsh.
Coming out in a big
Wow.
swing.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is low in my MCU, but it's not lower than Thor:
It's
The
not
Dark
that
World.
low,
That is
God
the...
damn.
It is for me.
Wow.
The 2 Doctor Stranges are at the very bottom for me.
Wow. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
Not a
yeah,
Cumberbatch
I just
fan.
You know what? I don't mind him. I just don't like the way the character's written and the way it's played, and all the other characters too. Just, I don't know. They just don't compel me.
I'm curious. Did you like him in the Avengers movies?
There wasn't much of him,
Yeah.
so I could deal with it. Same like with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't like when he's the center of attention. It's just,
You like him as
Interesting.
just the Avengers wizard friend.
yeah, comes in to, whip up some magic to help them save the day, and then, goes back to his little sanctuary there. And yeah, like other than that, like watching The Boys, loving it, cannot wait to see what they do in the finale.
Mhm.
And then the last thing that I've been watching, and it just kind of, we didn't get it all at once here in Canada, is the new Queer as Folk, which is week to week here. And there's some issues with it. The show, there's some storylines that are strong. There's been a lot of backlash in response to, kind of everything that kicks off the series, it being, rooted in trauma. And why do queer stories always have to be rooted in trauma?
Yeah.
So there's that. But on the other hand, there's a storyline with one of the characters, Ruthie, who's played by Jesse James Keitel. And it is just, it's fantastic. There's been nothing like it on TV before. So I'm mainly watching it for that storyline, and the rest of it, it's like, and I'm a huge fan of the original, like the British one, and then the US one from like the 2000s. So there's some things that are lacking, but there's one storyline that'll keep me watching it. So
Nice. All right. Well, let's jump over, and this is a good time to remind you that you can throw us. You can go to patreon.com/tvdudes. Throw us $1 an episode, and in exchange, we get to keep our streaming services, pay for our hosting costs, and you get bonus content each week. This week, I don't know what we're doing because none of us watched the homework of the last Nicolas Cage movie because we didn't want to deprive.
God damn it.
Nick did.
Nick did.
We're just setting Nick up to watch these things.
Yes, Nick will do a Patreon episode where he talks about it to no one, and Les and I will go home early. Or maybe not.
Honestly, it's weird. Like, this is the one you guys skipped, like, because this is like one of the better ones. Honestly,
since we just discussed how many of these Kyle got away with not watching. I just assumed that we were kicking this out a week to force Kyle. I'm sorry, give Kyle the opportunity.
Yeah.
To enjoy this film.
Yeah, for sure. We also have our $20 show rental, so if there are shows you want us to throw in the rotation, you can buy it at that level. Give us a couple of ideas. Next week, we're watching the We Are Cunts, I believe is the Crackle show.
Wow.
That Jean-Paul Vitali has requested we watch. Again, this is the man who gave us Big Dog, so I'm terrified. But we'll see what happens.
We Are Cunts,
all right.
CUNTS.
I think it's CVNTS, right?
Okay. Maybe
it's like Girls 5 Eva.
It's CVNT5.
CVNT5. So it is like Girls 5 Eva.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why you have to.
I guess on Crackle you could just get away with anything.
Yeah, because nobody's watching.
Yeah, no one's watching anyway.
Okay,
so
this started in 2018, so yeah, nobody's minded this.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. I'm terrified, you guys. This is gonna be more ASMR cop stuff.
No, I think this might be somewhere between Girls 5 Eva and Players.
Okay. That's a lot of ground.
Where? That's a lot of fucking range, man.
Yeah, there's good and bad in there, and I don't know about that.
We're just gonna throw a dart at it. We'll see.
All right, let's talk about all the shows we watched this week, because this week I thought the homework was pretty great. I was pretty happy with almost everything I watched this week. And we're going to start off by talking about the second season of Only Murders in the Building, which there are 3 episodes in. I don't know if y'all have seen all 3 or just seen 2 of them, because I think the third one just dropped.
I'm halfway through the third one. I've not gotten to finish it.
Okay.
Is the third one from what's-her-name's perspective?
Yes.
Then I have seen it, yes.
Okay. I just don't want to spoil too much. Melissa, are you're caught up on Only Murders?
Yes.
So, since this is your first chance to talk about it on our show, what did you think of Only Murders?
I absolutely loved the first season. It was like one of my favorite shows last year. It was so clever and so well written. It made me a Selena Gomez fan.
Right?
Because I was not before.
Yeah.
No, now I'm like Selena Gomez. She's a powerhouse.
She held her own against Steve Martin and Martin Short.
SG is the one for me.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I grew up on Steve Martin and Martin Short stuff, so like I was in based on that. I'm also a huge fan of murder podcasts. So that's like, again, kind of like the procedural shows, murder podcasts comfort me. So the concept, like the idea behind it, and a lot of people
behind
thought it
murder
should have had a season 2. Yes. And like I see a lot of people saying, oh, you know what? Only Murders should have just been 1 season, a one and done. It served its purpose. It was good.
You know who also says that? Only Murders does in the first fucking episode. Yeah. They can't stop saying it.
I thought I loved them the steering into that too. The like nobody, you never do a second season of these kind of things. Like they're well aware of the tropes. Always terrible. And I think, but the first 3 episodes so far, I'm like, yeah, I was one of those people. I was not unhappy to get a second season because they were such chemistry of the cast, and you can totally do more with those characters. But I was nervous that they'd ruin it, that they would ruin this perfect season of TV. And instead, so far, season 2 is great. I think Martin Short's amped up a little bit. Like they've given him a little more of the spotlight, and his narcissism is always hilarious to me.
And the whole painting.
Well, they've given him a spotlight.
His dad.
Yeah. And God, honestly, when Amy Schumer showed up, I kind of groaned a little more. I've kind of gotten enough. I groaned
loud enough for us both.
But then when I realized she's playing herself as the worst person in the world, I was like, okay, that's right. I can deal with that. I can deal with Amy Schumer playing herself as the worst person.
Except, like, at least I can tell when Neil Patrick Harris is being NPH.
Yeah.
And like, I can't entirely tell that Amy Schumer's laying it on.
Oh, I'm pretty sure this is just her.
Yeah. Anyway, I groaned quite loudly. I was not happy to see Amy Schumer join this, but honestly, like the rest of this cast falls together like an old like theater troupe or vaudeville. Like
Yes.
they've got their shtick so. I mean, their groove is so tight within by the end of the first episode, I was like, and we're back.
Yeah.
Like feet up, popcorn out. Let's watch Only Murders.
Yeah. No.
This is great.
They didn't drop a step, which means, I mean, season 1 was one of the best things on TV this last year, and I'm super excited for more of it. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving this.
I was particularly impressed
Yeah.
with the bunny episode
Mhm.
because they really did go back and make you sympathize with a character that really was a one-note, very angry and bitter character, and they did the same thing with
Oh my god.
like with
Yeah.
without changing her. She's not secretly a good
Yeah.
person.
No, she's the same person.
You just really understand her and why she was doing what she's doing, and in her moment, like she just needed that moment, and I like that they realized like we didn't kill her, but we could have saved her if we had just had done the right thing that one moment, and we fucked up. We didn't do
them
it.
standing inside that door and like taking turns looking out the peephole one after
Yeah.
another of like, oh god, she's
Oh,
crying now.
yeah.
She's just standing there crying.
Do we
now.
invite her in?
so
No, that'll be
bad.
out of
Look,
pity now.
should
I
we
don't know
open
what
the
to
door?
do.
Yeah. The
Oh
other
my
thing that
gosh.
I thought was really cool leading up to the new season, there was an article in the New York Times about the building that the Arconia is based on. This is like an actual building on, I think it's the Upper West Side.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
And it's like the size of an entire city block. It's called the Belnord, and it has the courtyard. And when they're using the fountain, like the courtyard, they do some of the filming there and everything. And the building itself has like this really, really fascinating history. So that's kind of like coloring a little bit of as I'm watching it, especially when they're talking about, not changing. There's a story, a plot point in the third episode where it's, kind of the new generation versus the old generation and saying, we need to change with the times. We need to modernize. And that building itself has had that struggle over the years. So there's like that extra layer in there that I just found really cool.
Yeah,
No,
that is very cool. Also, we didn't talk about Shirley MacLaine, who I thought was great.
As Bunny's
Bunny's mother.
Bunny's mother comes up like, what?
And then I get her name wrong every time. Cara Delevingne.
Cara Delevingne, yeah, or whoever you say it.
Delevingne. Yeah, Cara Delevingne.
Cara Delevingne, okay. All right.
Delevingne,
I mean,
thank
the
you.
minute she shows up with that, putting a fucking, not only a DM in Selena Gomez's phone, but like a video clip, I'm like, okay, she
whole-ass
wants
video.
to fuck you.
Oh my god.
I don't know anything about this other art stuff, but she is totally into you.
Yeah.
I did love the moment of her walking back up after Selena Gomez just destroyed that sculpture with the axe and like, I meant
metaphorically.
That was
Nah,
so
just totally
good.
fucking with you.
I'm just fucking with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their
for sure.
whole flirt was just great.
Yeah, it was very cute. All right, turning from the ridiculous to the weirder and darker, let's talk about Westworld. Season 4, time jump again, and reality shift again, and this show is different
It is time
every
for the time
season.
warp again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I always love it, but I think we talked about this off mic. I never know what's happening.
Yeah. This is a class act, but it also is just willfully obtuse. And at 4 seasons in of it, it was hard to like hit the clutch and shift gears and sit down to watch Westworld.
Yeah.
I had to go back, and the recap did not cover it. I had to rewatch
No.
the last episode of last season and remember that like, oh, that's right, we're collecting minds in the park to run a giant AI. That AI ran the world, and we crashed that system, and like who the players were and like what all happened last season.
Mhm.
And then I was all set for flaming apocalypse, madness society, only some people are robots screaming we're free. And instead we time jump ahead to like same shit, different day.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we didn't actually want to do that story. So
Like
that
when
happened.
his
and it's done.
coworker in episode 1 is like, man, is your life any different since they crashed that bullshit? Like, no.
Yeah.
And like, oh god, it's
Yeah.
not.
But I
No,
like
the writers didn't have any
I like,
ideas about it, so
I like
Yeah.
the sort of the weird thing of like that there was this war that happened, and now we get to see all these people trying to come back from it. Like Aaron Paul's character, I really like him and Maeve interacting and being like they're like veterans who get together and like have to do one last job. And I'm a sucker for that kind of thing, even though we never saw them together in that way, really. Like not
No.
really.
No, I was a little surprised. I was like, did I miss them as like a super team?
Yeah. But they've got great chemistry. I'm into it.
Yeah.
I like them together.
I
And
also like her line of like, well, you wouldn't stay. No, but I'd regret it. Like their whole exchange of like, you're coming with me. Yeah.
I always love Ed Harris here playing the villain. I like the way they've tweaked his villain, and he's just such a monster. And I always enjoy him just chewing scenery all the way through that role. And
Is he a robot
I'm curious,
now? Or am I...
He's definitely a robot
Yes,
now.
He's
yes.
a robot now.
He's a robot now?
He's
Okay.
multiple robots.
He's a couple
They're all
different ones,
multiple
alright.
robots. They're all multiple robots now.
Oh, that's not confusing.
Except like I think now we're seeing like the difference in Dolores's robot plan and William's robot plan.
Yeah. But also,
like they're not a monolith.
this has such a good cast. Tessa Thompson. Why am I blanking on the Dolores' name? Their actress name. Evan Rachel
Wood.
Wood. Always
she's
good.
Fantastic.
Nice to see just a glimpse of James Cyclops back.
James
Marsden.
James Marsden. And I like Aaron Paul. I love Tandy Newton. Like this may be my favorite thing she's ever done. There's so much going on. There's so many cool scenes. Like the second episode. Have you all seen the second episode yet?
Yes.
I've not.
Okay. There's a fight between a senator and his wife and the other two characters that was just a fantastic scene. And I really love where they're going with all of this. If you're doing robots, you have to do robot duplicates. But I also love that they're reintroducing Westworld. Basically, Ed Harris gets something. He's like, "Yeah, I know it was a terrible thing, but we made a lot of money, so we're doing it again." And so now their Westworld is like World War I, Roaring '20s kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. That's fun. I'll watch that.
Well, and especially when you realize, like, I mean, I haven't seen that episode, but there's like throughout the whole first season, they were teasing that it's not a park. That like in the same way that if you can't figure out how Facebook's free, you're the product there. And like in the same way, like if you can't figure out why Westworld, it's not to give an amusement park to rich douchebags.
Nope.
It's to get something. And so like they can't not have, I don't care what we skin it with. Like you can't not have a Westworld because we have to harvest data. And so I kind of like that idea of like, no, I don't care how bad Jurassic Park went. The dinosaurs were not the point.
I'm getting some serious Battlestar Galactica vibes with the Cylons and all that stuff. And at one point, someone mentions the tower, and I started singing all along the Watchtower. And it's just like, I love that aspect of it. And Christina, formerly Dolores, the storyline that she's on right now is kind of like interesting, like working as a game developer. And is she stealing people's lives, or is she creating people's lives? Like there's this really weird like fine line between, I think it's like calling into question like what the metaverse is going to be like and stuff like that. So I just love those big ethical questions. Also, I mean, excellent cameo from Aaron Stanford. I was, as a huge 12 Monkeys and Nikita fan, I was so thrilled to see him.
I think he's the one that mentions the tower.
Yes. And it's just I am fascinated to see like where her storyline goes this year, because I have a feeling that, I don't know, just kind of like my wacky prediction is that she's somehow going to be brought in to help take down Delos and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah.
So,
there's something about this show that's just always high class. Other shows might do similar plot lines or similar AI I mean, we've seen Upload, we've seen Made for Love, we've there's been a lot of shows that tackle, but some of it's the obtuseness of the storytelling, but there's just something in the grain of Westworld that feels not just money poured at it, but really high class. And part of what caught me off guard was, for example, they managed to have Evan Rachel Dolores, new character, be a writer, and they basically do the hack story thing of like, I'm a writer. what if I wrote a story about a writer blocked with writing? And like all of the stories that she evolves through are like literally like, is that the thing you were going through last night when you left work? Is that what you came in with to this pitch meeting this morning? Was literally the mood you walked out of here with? That's it? But the way they do it, it doesn't come across as that bit.
Yeah.
Like it kind of took standing back from where I went, y'all are stepping really close to her almost doing a bit, but I know you're going someplace bigger with it. There's always this class to the way they're telling their story.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's definitely true.
There's one thing that's kind of standing out to me, and Bernard and Stubbs.
Yeah.
Haven't seen them yet.
Yeah.
No.
So I need to know what they're up to, especially because there was a teaser released of something they were up to.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be in the first episode. And I maybe the third episode, who knows?
Yeah, that's one thing Westworld is patient. Like they're and they are in no hurry to tell us anything. They're in no hurry to tell us anything that's going on, or to like. I mean, was James Marsden? He wasn't in season 3, right? Has he been
No.
gone since season 1 or season 2?
He was in season 2, I remember.
He was in
Yeah.
season 2.
Yeah.
Okay, but they talked about that. They're like, yeah, we were kind of sitting on this, and we got to bring him back, and how exciting that was. And like, yeah, that's a nice callback to bring him back and see what does that mean. And they're patient, and they are not willing to hold our hand. They're like, look, just get on board. There's robots. You'll figure it out.
I see your red door and I want it painted black. No colors anymore. I want them to turn black. I see the girls walk by dressed in their summer clothes. I have to turn my head until my darkness goes.
Let's jump over and talk about Physical over on Apple Plus, which I know, Nick, you did not get a chance to watch all of it because watching all of it at the same time would be like eating like 2 birthday cakes naked in a hotel room or something.
In a bathroom, yeah. Ugh.
I adore this show, but man, is it a hard watch. Because Rose Byrne's lead character is awful. She is a terrible, terrible person.
No, she hates herself and everyone around her,
Yes.
like to a
Oh, yeah.
startling degree.
Yeah.
The more I watch the boys, the more I think if we saw Homelander's internal monologue, it would be a lot like this.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Or Vought would have given this woman powers.
I hate everyone else almost as much as I hate myself, but
Yeah. And yet I find her super compelling, and I find myself rooting for her. Like, that's a really neat trick.
She's such a product of that time. Like, as someone who lived through that time, thank goodness I wasn't an adult. But I mean, there's so much that I can relate to because it wasn't uncommon for a mom to buy her kid, sweating to the oldies or deal a meal or something like that. Like, diet culture and exercise culture, which both went like hand in hand, was such a big part of, like I'd say of my life growing up. Like, if I wasn't directly affected by it, people around me were affected by it. And so it feels so real. Like it is difficult to watch at times, but it's so good. And I agree. Like, Sheila is not a likable person, but she's also just such a product of that time and the way women were raised then. And, the expectations put on them and everything. Like, it's probably one of the most real, raw representations of that time period that I've seen.
Yeah.
And the friendship with Sheila and Greta is also just so painful to watch, but so good.
Yeah.
I know this show, like, it is a really hard watch, and I find myself wishing that it would break off and be crazier, like, she killed 5 people by now or something like that, and that it's just low grade mean all the way through.
It's kind of American Psycho without the murders.
Yeah, and it
dude, I
makes for,
liken it
like,
to
this
Ozarks
is an amazingly
or
well
something.
done show. Yes, it feels like kind of like watching Ozarks, only it's not exactly crime. It's
they keep,
I
they
mean, it
just
is
keep a
cry-
tension of like that. There's
Yeah.
this bad
Yeah.
feeling you have the entire time that something
Yeah.
really bad is about to happen.
Yeah. And worse, like, there are, like, usually kids involved. You're like, oh, God, what's
Well-
she going to do to these kids?
There's a constant knowledge that even if, I mean, like you said, I don't like her, but I'm rooting for her to be able to get out of her way long enough to succeed.
Yeah.
But I know that inevitably she can't.
Yeah.
Like if she gets real success, she is going to explode and take out a
Yes.
lot of people.
Yeah.
And like you can just see it coming. So like while you're rooting for her, you know that's also going to be the worst thing. Yeah, this is a, I don't know, capital T tragedy. I don't think it's used very, it's, you know, it's not drama or soap opera or anything. Like, this is a tragedy.
Yeah.
There's one thing I really, really have to give the show kudos for this season, and it's something that more shows are starting to portray in a very realistic way, and that's like women's health issues. And how it's they minimize, like, it's happening to the woman, like it's her body that is having the issue. Yet they're like saying to her husband, "Oh, we've saved an ovary so you can still have kids." Like
Mhm.
telling the husband that,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
directing it to the woman who's affected by, losing an ovary,
Yeah.
which is extremely painful.
And Danny
Um,
and Danny is the perfect, like, white mediocre 80s man. Like, he is terrible. He's terrible, but he's not terrible willfully. He's just so in that culture that he's like, no, I'm cooking for the kids. I'm the stay-at-home dad. Look how awesome I am. And he really thinks he's done something there. And in fact, he is just like the worst partner in the world, but no different than most men of the time.
That and her best friend getting slowly madder at him through misunderstanding is
Yes.
hilarious to me.
Yes. God, I love
Like-
how much Greta hates him because he deserves every bit of that scorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greta is awesome.
Yeah, Greta's great.
Greta.
The moment of seeing the handprint of like, nope, that's a man's hand.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Greta
Yeah.
cracks me up.
Yeah.
Also, like, Greta embracing her freaky side. Like, go
Yeah.
for it, girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of looks wistfully away and like, yeah, but it's so hot.
Yeah.
And I mean, Murray Bartlett also this season has just been so good. And anyone who watched White Lotus, like, he was excellent
Oh,
in that.
God.
And playing like he's Richard Simmons. Like, he
Yeah.
is Richard Simmons. Like, they basically even came up with products that were almost identical and doing like these heartfelt surprising people in their homes and all
Yes.
that. Like, it's I think that this show sometimes feels like a docuseries
Mhm.
and not
Mhm.
fiction.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of those things that really it shouldn't work. It's so mean. And yet it's so good. Like it even though it makes me feel bad to watch it, I always watch it and I always love it. So yeah. All right, let's jump over to Apple's other show, Loot, which just came out with Maya Rudolph as the she early on in the first episode, Adam Scott, her beloved Jeff Bezos' husband, turns out to be sleeping with a much younger woman, and she divorces him and becomes the third richest woman in the world. And then she winds up working for her foundation she didn't even know she had, and she means well, but she is very much an out of touch rich woman. I adored this show. I loved it, and I was very surprised by
I
Yeah, I
begrudgingly liked it.
that.
Like, I liked it
It's-
against my will.
It's okay. The fact that it has this many people in it and it's just okay pissed me off. I really didn't enjoy this. I made it through the first episode and don't get it.
Interesting.
Anytime that I see a story like this, it's because the rich person's lost everything and has to learn a lesson.
Hmm.
She's just bored and ruining people's real jobs.
Yeah.
Like, rich lady, go home. Give the money to the lady across the desk from you and
Yeah.
walk away. Like, she doesn't have to be there. She's not court ordered. So this is just, she got bored in her candy room and went to fuck with these people.
And that's
And
the way
I don't get it.
That's the way I
Yeah.
should feel about it. I think the reason I don't is because it's Maya Rudolph, and Maya Rudolph got this over with a lot. But as they go on, especially like episodes 3 and 4, where they start developing her relationship with Nat Faxon, and they start developing the relationship that Ron Funches has.
The only person that she's friends with is like the whitest dude on earth.
Dude,
Is their
they're-
accountant. Like she
they're so
doesn't remember
cute,
her
though.
own cousin. Like she doesn't remember her own cousin that's family. But befriends Nat Faxon immediately.
Yeah, but it as it goes on, also like the relationship that starts to develop with Sophia. I'm
Mhm.
really, really enjoying that because where, Maya Rudolph's character is learning from Sophia, like the more, the realities of people's lives,
Mhm.
not this, like sugar-coated world that this billionaire woman is used to. And Molly, which is Maya Rudolph's character,
Yeah.
is helping Sophia connect with like her inner child that she had to sacrifice so early on
Yes.
because of her circumstances.
Yeah.
So I'm loving that. Not to mention getting to see Michaela J. Rodriguez in a show again as like a series regular
Mhm.
makes
She's-
me thrilled beyond belief. She thought she wouldn't work after Pose, and I'm so thrilled she is.
And she's really the star here because she is the one that she's the one you sympathize with. And seeing that bit where she goes to Molly's and realizes that she can order whatever food she wants and she just kind of gets into it and enjoys it. It's this little bit of like, oh, she's actually getting something out of this. It is not just this rich woman destroying her life. She is actually getting to enjoy a little bit of this. And she's also getting to interact with her staff in a way that makes them all more tight knit, which would never have happened without this crazy woman coming in and disrupting everything. I should really dislike the show. I usually am not I don't give a shit about rich people's problems. You're the third richest woman in the world. I don't care about any of your problems. But because it's Maya Rudolph and because it's a comedy and because they're doing such a good... Nat Faxon plays sort of hapless doofus better than anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
I still remember him from Ben and Kate, which I think is the first place I saw him. And I loved him on that. And I think his character here, who is just the whitest of white bread, he's an accountant who's excited about being an accountant. And yet, when you see little bits of like him finally getting to impress his kid, and the bit of like he's not upset that Molly, the obvious way to go with Molly would have been for him to be like he thought that they were doing a romance thing, and then he gets upset about it. But no, he's like, yeah, no, I don't want any part of that. I don't want to be dating a rich person. I don't want to be famous. Like I really liked some of the ways they do this. I think they're going some not obvious ways in their writing. And as they go on, I'm liking it more and more. Also, the people who do this, Alan Yang and Angela Barnes, are Alan Yang's credits are like Master of None, Parks and Rec, and Angela Barnes' credits are Teenage Bounty Hunters, Atlanta. She's on Ironheart, so she directed a couple episodes of Killing It. So these are people who know funny and sort of weird, and I think this is going to continue to grow. I think I'm going to continue to really like it.
I
Yeah,
think
the-
a smart
for me,
decision they made. No, go ahead.
Oh, as I was gonna say that for me, the pilot episode, like I didn't believe the no prenup level relationship. Like I didn't buy the relationship between her and Adam Scott, and then like for her to get so the setup didn't quite work for me, and then she was just sad rich lady, and I didn't buy how their marriage worked. I didn't buy how the divorce played out, and I didn't buy her hole in herself that she suddenly needed to fill. It just felt like a bunch of like doofus rich lady easy jokes that like even done
get
by Maya
that.
Rudolph were pretty great, but it still didn't. It wasn't enough to make It wasn't enough to make me watch the second episode. I was really surprised. I knew you really liked it, but I also know you like Maya Rudolph better, like more than me.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because it was the strength of the cast doing these jokes that was making it work, but it didn't feel better than like other shows with great casts that didn't work, like Powerless or this just felt like Apple TV threw a lot of cast and money at a joke.
Well, I think
So-so
like
sitcom.
to Randy's point, I think that they do some smart things in the writing, though. Just a couple tweaks that I think make this a lot easier going down. One of them being that she owns like that. She could run roughshod all over that entire foundation, but she treats damn it, I've forgotten her name. What's her name as like a boss. Like she really does act like an underling. Like she really wants
Sophia.
to work. Sophia, yes.
Yeah.
And Sophia is like, she explains like, oh, I have a hole inside me, and I love that Sophia's like, yeah, I don't care about any of that.
yeah.
And I have to give huge shout out to Joel Kim Booster. Like, holy smokes, is he good?
Yes.
I also, this is one of my favorite things I've seen Ron Funches in. He's wonderful in every show, and
Yeah.
Dude,
I
I
want
was
to see that
missing
guy get
Harley
on something
Quinn
that rocks.
so bad hearing his voice. I was like, when is King
Yeah.
Shark coming back?
Yeah.
He's quick and hilarious, and his line delivery is usually like
You might
a
want to
whole league better than the show he's on.
you know what, I won't
So I might have to
recommend
give
you
this more
see-
of a chance.
Yeah. How much
I-
did you
I
watch
might
of
not
this
wanna
last-
episode
I
two,
literally
because it's
I
not
watched
like
the
it-
first episode and was like, this is a not funny sitcom.
It doesn't significantly change, but there is a cute relationship between the assistant and Ron Funches. And
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's a Funches gets to play an almost dramatic way, which I don't usually get from him. And yeah, I think the pilot was cute. I liked it okay, but it is not the show. I feel like the show really gets going in like episode 3. And
Okay.
I feel like for me it's a thing that I'm actually very much looking forward to. I was really happy when the 4th episode dropped and I got to watch it. And I was actually a little disappointed they weren't dropping it like 3 at a time, because I'm really enjoying the character growth, and I think this is gonna wind up being a very smart and fun show. But
I'll
I
give
do
episode 2 a shot.
I do think that
Please.
yeah, the pilot unfortunately is not. Comedy pilots are tough, and especially a
Yeah.
premise like this, it was a tough sell.
I think part of it was just that it's 2022, and part of me just gives no shits about rich people problems.
Oh man, I get it.
It's not an impossible hill to surmount. I mean, clearly I've watched a bunch of We Crash and that kind of shit, but
Yeah.
But it's definitely an uphill climb to
Yeah,
like
I get
for
that.
to get me to believe that a rich person's doing something because they just have like a hole in themselves they recently discovered, and they like want to be a good person. Like I need like a Joe Pesci the super level, like, you were court ordered to do this though, right?
Well,
All
I
right,
want
let's
to go just yell at her, go on GoFundMe and fund everyone's medical bills that they keep putting on there.
Yeah,
There was
that would be
also
nice.
that. I may have missed a couple of lines in the first episode for yelling at the screen to like just give the foundation, give
Just give your money
Sophia
away.
like
Yeah.
$86.5 billion
Yes,
and
yeah.
let her fix the fucking world.
There is that. There is definitely some of that. All right, let's jump back to the 80s again. Not talk about physical, but let's talk about Stranger Things. The final 2 episodes of season 4. And like I say, it was interesting for me to watch this and then go back and watch season 1, and it's such a different show. Like,
Mhm.
the stakes are so much higher now, and there's so much extra dimensional travel and monsters and all this shit. Like, they really just crank things up every season.
So did we all get to? I mean, we're gonna get spoilery.
Did everyone finish? I guess. is the
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I finished.
Good.
I know that
'cause,
was
we
4
we
hours
are
of
gonna
show, but
we are gonna be
I
spoilers.
was wondering how the ending was going to deal with you, Randy, because I know you weren't feeling it the first the 6 episodes or whatever the fuck
Yeah,
they put out.
I feel the same way to some extent, especially the first episode back. I was like, just fucking get to the fireworks factory already. Like, get everybody together in
Yeah.
the same room. They split them up, and I was really annoyed by them splitting up, especially because it causes so many logistical problems at the end where basically 11 can't be there to help, and
Yeah.
and the people in Russia, I'm like, wait, how is this helping? What are you gonna do? You guys are in fucking Russia. And that constant, like, we're never gonna see all those people in the same room until maybe an epilogue, really pissed me off.
The last 2 episodes definitely feels like the writers are like, oh, we added way too many characters, and now everyone needs something to do.
Yeah.
So
But
well, I mean, for a show that bases so many things on D&D, like, don't split the party.
don't split the
let's split
party.
the party,
Like,
man.
you're killing the DM here.
But that said, I really liked this. The stuff that's supposed to work, like Eddie Munson's fucking guitar solo from hell, it works. Dustin
Yeah.
going back for him. There's all kinds of stuff that
Dustin
really works.
Samwise is so good.
Yeah.
They pull the same goddamn trick with Bob they did in season 2, where they add a character. I'm like, oh, you're gonna add a character because you can't actually kill one of the main people, so we're gonna definitely.
I was a
kill
little
this
mad
new
that
guy.
Eddie was. Yeah, that they got me to cry, and it was also the cheap shot. Like,
Yep.
It was the character that I thought was most
But
likely.
you end up liking him so much, you kind of like, well, maybe they won't kill him, even though that's entirely his purpose in the show is to be there to die.
I thought they were gonna kill Max.
I thought he was about to be new Steve. And,
Yeah,
like, maybe
yeah.
they're going to kill Steve.
I was
and have-
gonna be shocked if they killed Max, because they really went in on that. I was like, oh wow, I did not
They
expect
definitely hurt Max.
Yeah, they definitely hurt Max a lot.
I love that this season is a full on like empire down. I mean, it's a loss.
Yeah.
And 11 has nothing in her childhood that could have ever taught her how to handle this exactly.
Yeah.
So like that's a hard lesson for people with good parents.
Mhm.
And her My Two Dads reunion was dark.
Yeah,
So,
it was.
like,
Jesus.
She did not get raised well to handle loss. And I think Mike touches on it like right at the end of like she got her ass handed to her. I don't think
Yeah.
that's ever quite happened.
Yeah.
Not
Melissa,
like that.
Melissa, we haven't talked Stranger Things with you, so what did you think?
This has been one of my favorite seasons. I'd say probably
Same.
behind season 1. I absolutely loved it, and this is how much I loved it. When it comes to horror, there are certain things that I can't quite tolerate, and that's like kind of the demonic possession, breaking bones, like that type of stuff, like the levitating, and that just, I don't know, for some reason I was traumatized as a child watching a movie that, it's always stuck with me, and that stuff just kind of bugs me. And I was like, okay, I'm willing to put up with it just because I'm so invested in the rest of the storyline. And I mean, Eddie Munson, what a rock star. Like, I freaking loved him from the beginning. I just started playing D&D in the past couple years, so I feel I also had like a greater appreciation. Like, I understood. In the first season, I was like, I don't quite get that joke. Let me look it up. Whereas this season, it's like, I know what they're talking about. So it was like just an extra meta layer for me. And just that whole sequence with Master of Puppets, like,
Yeah, it
holy
was so
smokes.
good.
Not to mention, they're selling a replica of that guitar, and it's sold out and on back order. That you can have your very own guitar.
Even Eddie was like, wow, it's almost like it was designed to look good in the upside down.
Yeah. And it's designed to look like a claw,
Yeah.
which is so cool. Yeah, like there were so many things about this season, like Max's storyline. Who knew that this would be the year that Kate Bush would make a comeback?
Right?
And I am here for it. As someone who's loved her since I was a kid. And then like the one person who totally rocked it was Nancy this year.
Yeah.
Like Nancy was, going undercover and sawing off shotguns. And I kept saying it, like she's channeling her inner Sarah Connor,
Yeah.
Ellen
Mhm.
Ripley, bump with that
Yes.
sawed off.
Yep.
And I mean,
Yep.
and I'm not glamorizing guns or anything like that, but I think in this case, it's very warranted and very badass of her.
Well, also it's an
Um,
80s thing, and in the 80s there was a different kind of thing. It had a different vibe and it played different, especially when they're fighting monsters. They're not fighting commies. They're not fighting.
exactly.
They're not fighting
They-
drug dealers or whatever
I
else.
did
80s
love they
villains.
drove out of their way to go to a gun shop to pick up one gun.
And they come back with like a bag of stuff, and I was like, whose credit card did you max out for this? But when they come back, they don't quite do the commando like load up with all the weapons thing, but they have each of them like one after another drop their weapon down up into the upside down.
They definitely did
And
a gear up
that's
sequence.
rad.
Yes,
The gear
yes.
up that was rad. I also love they've been moving more towards straight up horror movie each season.
Mhm.
And this season, I mean, even having Robert Englund, like we were full horror this season. The opening of these last 2 episodes, Nancy's in Vecna's upside down space mind or whatever in the hospital, and I mean, her name's Nancy, and they're running around, and it's like undulating, gross, rot, like burned tentacles and shit. It was so. I watched it with Fanny and her 2 kids, who are 9 and 11, which was a fun Stranger Things experience, and realized I'm the only one in the room who's seen all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and was just like, no, you all have to understand how Freddy Krueger this shit is. It's so perfect. This feels
Wow.
so like, and there's not much more trash 80s for me than like Freddy Krueger looks 80s, early 90s to me.
Yeah, and Eddie Munson putting on a Michael Myers mask.
Oh,
like,
God, that
that
was hilarious.
beautiful.
Yes. Oh man, I
Yes.
loved that. Yes, it was
That
so
was
good.
Man, I am
hilarious.
surprised to hear you guys gushing about it so much, because for me, this is by far the weakest season of Stranger Things.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, by the end of it, I was kind of like, well, that was fucking dumb. Like, I agree with all the good things that you said, but it's surrounded by a bunch of stuff like the Russia storyline. I could go in and edit that out of all of this and it would not
Yeah, and you
change
wouldn't miss it.
anything. You wouldn't miss a goddamn thing.
The thing is, I love Brett Gelman. I love David Harbour. I love Winona Ryder. I wish they'd all had a better story because, yeah, I didn't care about that story at all, and it feels very much vestigial. I think you're right. You could have edited it out, and the whole thing would have made no difference.
Like, when I was watching Westworld, I was like, please start explaining stuff. And then I was watching this, I'm like, please stop explaining stuff.
Yeah, I knew as I was watching these and they were explaining the Upside Down that like Nick was going to hate this part.
I will say this. I think Argyle for me was a character I wasn't sure. I was like, this guy's a little one note. I think I'm not into it. I think they're trying too hard. But when he meets his alternate world, there's an Argyle at every pizza pizza place apparently.
Yeah, Surfer Boy Pizza.
Surfer
yeah,
Boy
and that
Pizza
they all just roll with it.
Yeah, that bit made Argyle worth it entirely for me because that whole bit of like them creating the chamber for 11 in the back of the pizza shop, and that the guy was just like, well, I got to go in like 10 minutes. I'm meeting up with some people. He's like, oh, it's cool, man. I'll take care of it. Like that whole thing was so hilarious to me in the midst of this world destroying danger.
Where we can get 600 pounds of salt.
Yeah, it's still, don't get me wrong, it's still good TV. It's just and it's all the moment to moment stuff works. The dialogue and actors are still great. The overall writing feels really weird to me. Like it feels unstructured. Like
I think
there's
they
bullies
got a little
in this season for like because they feel like they need to have bullies, even though that, I mean, I guess we needed something for Lucas to do.
I think it feels a little self-indulgent. I think it's a little bit like the, hey, we're the Netflix darling. We're not going to cut your time. Do whatever you want. And it does feel like maybe someone need to get in here and be like, hey man, I don't know if every episode needs to be 2 hours long.
Also, Vecna being number one is straight up stupid.
End of that. Did you like the end of that bully though?
Oh, where he gets sawed in half? I was like, oh, wow, okay. Well, they also start that satanic panic that sounds interesting, doesn't ever really go anywhere.
And see, I kind of like that whole story, that whole storyline, because it's like the whole satanic panic.
Yeah.
And I remember
but then that mob
in the 80s
disappears and it's only him and another dude at the end of it.
Yeah. I just remember the don't play Dungeons and Dragons. You saw what happened to Tom Hanks in Mazes and Monsters.
Yeah,
like they even showed the parents like saying, "Oh, we got to go find our kids," and then they never went back to that.
I do wonder if Nick, if part of the disconnect is the age difference, because you didn't live through all this the same way that we did, and so I think it resonates a little more. There's
a sheen of nostalgia that we have that's covering over some flaws, maybe.
For sure.
Well, I loved the previous seasons because I do love the Goonies and E.T. of it all, and I think I don't need the Upside Down explained to me in every goddamn detail of like, just get her powers back, put her in the thing, have her come out, let's have it be 10 minutes. And we tried to like make 11, like they reworked her origin of like being a superhero of like, oh, you didn't kill all those kids. That's fine. She still murdered a shit ton of people. Like,
yeah, they did want to give her a bit more redemption. And they had to do some retconning, and that's nothing more superhero than that. But yeah, I can totally see.
I always don't like I'm the evil bad guy, and everything that's happened to you has been because of me going back and writing that in. Like,
yeah,
it was.
Oh, that it's always been Vecna. Yeah,
that it had always been Vecna. I'm like, that's fucking tiring.
I've been in the hills, fucking superstars, feeling like a pop star. Drinking Henny, bad bitches jumping in the pool, and I ain't got on no bra. Hit her from the back, pulling on the tracks, and now she screaming out no more. They like Savage, why you got a 12-car garage and you only got 6 cars?
All right, do we have time for dessert? Did you guys all watch Miss Marvel this week?
I did.
I am behind on Miss Marvel, but y'all go for it.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna wait for Les to take his headphones off, so we don't, you don't want to spoil it for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna step out so y'all don't spoil it. I'm one behind.
Okay. I am really, really loving this, and I'm surprised how different it is from the comics, and yet so true to what I love about the comics. I thought, I honestly, I was nervous when they started with time travel last week. I was like, I don't know that I want to see a whole story about the time lost partition episode. But then when Kamala's not in it for the first half of it, and there's a story of Aisha, and it's a whole different story, I was in, and I really thought they did a great job showing a sort of star-crossed romance and how that informs her whole family.
No, I thought that was this pretty smart decision that leads into the flashback of this episode, and then it's
Mhm.
actually not. She doesn't so much as time travel as Aisha like summons someone like, okay, the Bangle will choose someone from the future and help me out,
Yeah,
and Kamala's there to like grab like one girl, make sure girl gets on the train, and then she's
that's
out of
it.
there.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's it.
there's no like, oh, when am I, or like having to figure out a mystery of
Right,
like, no, I'm here to
right.
do this one thing, and I think
Yeah.
the gate being open, and what's her name going through and being vaporized, I thought, and uh giving powers, it seems like, to the
Kamran,
to Kamran,
her
her
son. Yeah,
son, I want to say her son,
it's
right?
her son. Yeah, I
Like I
wanted to
thought
talk
that
about
was
that.
interesting.
I was surprised by a couple things. One is that we only met what's her name, Najima, I think. We've only met her like 2 episodes ago, and they did a good job of like in that space of time going from, oh, she seems like this wise character. Oh no, she's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh no, she's got a redemption arc. Like they pulled that off in 3 episodes in a way that I'm kind of surprised the pacing worked.
Well, I mean, I thought she was going to be the main bad guy, and then I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
well, I guess not.
I mean, she kind of is. She's the antagonist.
For her other friend though, that went
Yeah.
into the portal first, got like, I like that they, just so you don't think that this is like a Thanos vaporizing thing, that it can be reversed, we're gonna show her skeleton fall apart too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like,
I like that
God
effect.
damn.
I was surprised how quickly that all turned. Of like, oh, the gate's open. This is probably gonna be the last episode. Oh no, that's solved. We're done. I was like, and I'm not unhappy about it. I didn't want to see a whole episode of them preventing the clandestine world coming to ours. I was fine to move on with it, to have it be. I think that's what this show has done so well, is that it's got all the superhero stuff, but it's just really so character driven. And my favorite moment of this season so far in this episode was 3 generations of Pakistani women standing together. It was so
Amen.
Yeah, it was so good.
Our family is magical. Like I thought that was like metaphorical, Grandma.
I loved that moment so much, and what it gave me the feels of, like, 2 of my favorite shows of all time are Jane the Virgin and One Day at a Time, because they have that, 3 generations of women, and like finally talking to each other, understanding each other. And I was like, I did not expect to have these feels watching this show. And that's what's kind of elevated this show even above.
For sure.
It was a solid show leading up to it. I've been saying that I never realized there were so many similarities between Italian Canadian families and American Pakistani families.
Mhm.
Like they have so much in common.
Wow.
And it's just like it's the family stuff is what's got me. Not to mention, like, her grandmother saying, oh, your mom ran away once because she was chasing after Bruce Springsteen, and she's like, no,
whoa.
it was Bon Jovi.
I
Let's get
love
this
this.
right.
And by the way, that was such a great callback because they talked about Bon Jovi in the wedding episode. I love that.
Yes. Well, there was the cover band.
Dude, this whole community that they live in is like a
Yeah.
Bon Jovi, like the cathedral.
Well, I
like
mean, they're from New Jersey, of course.
right? Yeah.
I also love in the comics when her mom discovers that she's Miss Marvel. It was one of my favorite moments, and they didn't quite replicate it, but in the comics, her mom knows. And when she finally tells her mom's like, "Yeah, I know you're a good girl. I knew you were out doing good." And I love that moment. But this is even better because it's that bit of like she sees it and she's like, "Wait a minute, you're that girl the whole time." And rather than like Nakia felt betrayed, her mom just immediately gets it. And for her, she's like, all of a sudden, all this behavior about her daughter that she didn't get, it's like, oh, she was out doing all the things I've always told her to do. And
I thought you were all doing
their
drugs
connection.
or kissing boys or something.
It deepens their connection.
Thank God you've only been risking your life fighting crime. Oof.
And then to have that pay off with the rest of the family, I really, really loved that. I thought that was that sold the whole thing. I don't know what the final episode of this looks like, by the way. I don't know what they're doing, because the threat is
A lot of
resolved.
the stuff that I thought, like the resolution to the family stuff, relationships, and even a lot of plot stuff, it all happened in this episode. I was like,
Yeah.
like I had to check and make sure that I'm like, there is one more episode, right? Because
Yeah. This
so much
feels
of
like
this
it could have
felt
been
very conclusive.
It could have been a wrap up. And now, so I'm like, we're gonna see her get at the costume, but I'm also wondering how this is all gonna play out, and what the finale is, and I'm very excited to see it. Also, we didn't talk about Bruno, and I know we're not supposed to talk about Bruno, but we talk about Bruno.
Should we?
Bruno and Cameron. I love the two of them together. I love Bruno being like, "Hey, I'm an orphan. I know what this is like," and basically this guy who he is so jealous of that he's able to sort of put that aside and help the guy out speaks to Bruno's character.
No,
and
Bruno's,
at the same time,
cool.
It speaks to Cameron's character that he's like, "Oh shit, I legitimately thought your name was Brian."
That
he hasn't been messing with him.
I really thought your name was Brian. I'm so sorry.
And he feels so bad. And
still, can I hang out here though from the cops?
Yeah,
that's still cool, right?
I guess the damage control is the big thing to deal with, and I don't know what that's going to look like, but
also Cameron's got like some powers that he blew up.
Some powers now,
with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm worried that like one of the threats may be Nakia.
I'm worried about that too.
Yeah. And I know nothing of. I've never read any of the comics. I just know very casually some plot points from them. So I have no clue where it could go potentially.
One of my favorite things about this is that Miss Marvel's one of my favorite characters, has been since she first appeared in 2014, and this is such a MCU rewrite of her that it is, again, it's not very similar to the comics. It's very different, but it's spiritually true to it. And Iman Vellani kills it as the character. But at the same time, it's kind of like when I was enjoying Walking Dead, I was like, you can watch the show Walking Dead and read the comics Walking Dead and get completely different stories that vibe similarly. And the same thing's true. Like, if you love the Miss Marvel TV show, you will love the Miss Marvel comics, and you aren't spoiled on anything because it's a completely different story. And I love that. I think that's the secret of a really good adaptation. So,
and when anyone,
and I love that it's a Canadian girl.
Yeah.
And she recently she threw out the first pitch at the Jays game here, and friends of mine were at it and lost their minds.
Oh, that's so cute. I love her.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see her be a bigger part of the Marvel universe because she's fantastic. She's gonna be the Tom Holland in the same way. She's gonna bring that enthusiasm, that youthful energy, and that fangirlishness is all gonna be there.
The Greater Toronto area is taking over the MCU between her and Simu. Like, yes.
Hey, I'm for it. I'm for
Anyone questioning how they're going to bring in X-Men or mutants into this universe? This is how. They're going to bring in...
Yeah.
They're just going to do it. It'll feel the same, but will make sense within the MCU. Don't worry about it. They're shockingly pretty good at this.
They're really good at. They've proven that they've definitely earned a little trust. All right. Well, that about wraps it up for us this week. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Les. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Nick.
This has been so much fun.
Thanks,
we'll hope to have you again soon.
Anytime.
And thank you to our listeners. Thanks to our patrons. Remember, you can go over to patreon.com/tvdudes. Throw us that $1 an episode. Listen to us talk about Nicolas Cage or whatever we're going to talk about this week. And until next time,
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.